Hey friends, welcome back to Sisters Unfiltered. We are in the double digits of episodes now. So I don't know, I feel like we're kind of getting our groove, still learning things all the time. Have a whole list of subjects to talk about coming up. But today I think it's super appropriate because we are going to be talking about teenagers today. Fun.
Woohoo!
And I think we've mentioned this before, but Lindsey and I both have seniors right now, and then also our nephew, so my brother and sister-in-law's son, they all three are seniors.
Yeah.
So we are in these, I think it's 7 weeks till graduation. I saw an email today.
Yes. We keep getting these emails every week. 8 weeks, 7 weeks.
And so it's crazy. I mean, we have the invitations for all the parties that are coming in, and getting the gifts, and the senior breakfast is coming up, and all the things.
Yeah.
And a big thing that's happening next week is this game they play, Assassin.
Oh yes.
Which I absolutely hate, but they love it. It's like a rite of passage.
A whole chat in our house because we didn't really want Parker playing it just because he needs to focus on school.
Yeah.
And so it's been like now I have to put up rules and boundaries, and by the time you guys listen to this, we'll already know who won.
Yeah. Exactly. It's unfortunate because all of my kids have played this game. It's kind of like they have teams and they have to get each other with Nerf guns, but just imagine with teenagers, and I think there's hundreds that play, it gets so out of hand.
It overtakes their life. It literally overtakes their life because there's money at stake.
Yes, exactly.
And so as if they don't have jobs and make money, I guess, but this right here is like such a big thing.
Yeah.
And it's like last year, just to give you guys an example, I went to pick up my Micah's friend for lacrosse, and we were on his street, and a high schooler drove up and shot us with a Nerf gun. Thank goodness I knew what was going on, and I was like, we're not playing.
It's so bad. Like, I actually secretly hope my kids get out, like, really quickly. It's like almost when you're in, like, the soccer tournament that you don't want to go to, and you hope they lose first round, but you don't want to tell anybody.
I know. You hope your kid doesn't make the team because you're like, I don't really want to go and, going to all that stuff. It's so true. And it's funny because, like, the stories are funny. Also, it can be dangerous.
Well, yeah.
Kids get in car accidents. Yeah. Like, no one's gotten hurt, but, like...
Oh, one of my kids ran into our garage door during Assassin because he forgot it was closed because he was hiding. And when he backed out, he was so consumed with this dumb game that he backed into the garage door. So the garage door looked pregnant, forever.
They hide in people's, they stake out people's houses. Yeah. And they, I've seen videos of kids on cars or people, slipping. And it's nuts. It is nuts. So, whatever. They look forward to it.
I mean, I just got an Amazon alert that said 400 Nerf bullets are coming to your house, will be delivered on Wednesday. I'm like, great.
You're like, oh my gosh.
Amazing.
It's legit.
Yeah, it is. I need to just save my guns and bullets for Micah because we're pretty much done. Yeah. I don't think Ella will play that when she's a senior. Mostly, I think
girls do play.
Yeah. But I'll give it to Micah.
It's fine because we let Blake, I think, borrow all kinds of our guns. Yeah. That was when Micah was more into Nerf guns, and Blake came over and was like, hey, Micah, can I borrow some of your Nerf guns? Micah was like, sure.
Yeah. So it's going to be a whirlwind of fun, exciting graduation season.
Lots going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You just hop from party to party. Mm-hmm. You see all the same people at all these parties.
We should just all have one, which Parker and Grayson are having a joint party, but we should just all have one big party. Yeah. I actually bought some gifts yesterday. Because I've never had a senior. Oh, yes. I've never really known what I was going to get. And, you do so many gift cards, but which we will do gift cards maybe for the boys. Yeah. I don't know, but for the girls that my boys are friends with, I bought them some stuff yesterday, so hopefully it ends up being cute. I don't know, or something they like.
I know.
Who knows?
But it's fun. It is fun. And then all three of those boys that are all seniors, cousins, are all going to the same university in the fall. So we really have a fun season ahead of us. It just might be kind of quiet around family events starting in the fall when they're all gone.
I know. It will be. My oldest is very, very, very low maintenance. And so I have already thought about stuff he's gonna want for his door. Y'all, everything I think I'm like, he'll never use it. He is gonna be the most basic. He just needs a sheet and a pillow and a blanket, and he's never gonna use anything else. like we like stopped buying water bottles for Parker because he doesn't use them.
Yeah.
I asked him the other day, I offered to buy him because he's like on this like health journey right now, and I offered to buy him a Garmin watch because I have a Garmin. I had Apple Watches for years and I decided to switch over to Garmin. He texts me, he's like, I mean, I don't really love using watches. I don't want you to spend a lot of money. He won't use it. He won't use it. Like, he is like, some things I wish he would use, to be honest. Yeah. And so it's just
it's a huge difference between boys and girls, what they take to move into college. One.
I'm sure, yeah.
And then there's even a bigger difference if you have a child that is super low maintenance. And boys in general Parker might be a little more.
He's way more than Micah.
Whatever. Yeah.
And it's not that Micah's high maintenance. It's just Micah is like, likes things in order and cares about all that stuff. And Parker's just like, whatever, I'm going to have fun.
I think you're going to care more than he does.
Oh, I will.
You'll have stuff for him and he might not ever use it.
Well, and that's why I'm trying to keep my head straight because he is going to school so far, because they are going to school so far away. And I know with Tyler, you guys really didn't bring very much. You bought it while you were there, had it shipped.
Yeah.
I thought this is going to be the easiest thing ever with Parker because he's not going to use anything.
Yes.
So I literally am going to get him the most bare minimum that you can get him, which is pretty much like a hamper.
Yeah.
Like, those like shower caddies.
Yes.
He will never use a shower caddy. He will never.
Yeah.
Like, I have to really remind myself, like, this is Parker. He's not going to use those things.
And here's the thing. If you get there and there's something he needs,
He'll go buy
needs it, he can go to Walmart.
I know.
I'm sorry if it's not at Walmart, you don't need it. Ultimately.
And you don't need a lot of things at Walmart anyway. Yeah. So you're just, Anyway, so it's just so funny how you have different personalities, and, people can tend to get super excited about decorating their kids' dorm rooms, and I'm like, I literally am like so like, because he's not going to care.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spend the money.
Yes.
If he doesn't care.
And that's probably the best way to be. Instead of like going with all these expectations and then kind of being crushed because they don't care.
Yeah. And if he does care, he'll let me know. Yeah. He'll be like, I want this. And I'll be like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
it's
just kind of knowing your kids.
It is. It is. So, and I just don't want to push something on him that he's not going to want anyway. Yeah. So we'll see. I'm sure I'm going to have to make him get something that he doesn't want to get.
Yeah.
But
and you'll get things that later he'll be like, Mom, I'm so glad that you got that for me because I didn't think I was going to need it.
But I do need it. Yeah.
But it is so much easier. You're done decorating their room and getting them organized in no time. And then your friends, I have girls that are decorating rooms, like 8 hours later, they're still doing the rooms. And you're kind of like, let's hang out.
Yeah.
Because this is the same school we went to. And so right now, it's like we have a lot of friends that also have their kids there. We just have a lot of relationships there. Yeah. So it really is kind of fun. I never thought dropping my kid off at college would be fun, but it actually has been because I have an older son that goes there as well. Yeah. And it's I get to see all my friends. It's like a reunion.
I haven't been back to Lee University since I was pregnant with Abby Kate.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a long time.
So that's
12 years?
Almost 12.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's been 12 years. Yeah. And so Parker's been. I haven't.
Yeah.
It's just not like it's in our path to anything. It's not close. And so that will just be fun. I haven't seen any new buildings. They've built a lot of new buildings and I haven't seen any of that. So it will be so fun. A lot of my friends don't have kids my kids' ages. Their kids are younger, that I went to Lee with.
But you have relationships with
yeah. I know people because you guys, but a lot of people we know there, that we were in school with directly. Yeah. Same age. Their kids are younger. Yeah. Almost all of them. So they'll come at some point. Maybe with one of my other kids.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be fun.
Anyways, but yeah.
So we're talking about parenting today.
Yeah.
Parenting teenagers. Mm-hmm. We've gone through what your family looks like before you have kids, and then when you have babies, up till when they go to elementary school, and then in that, babies is your babies, toddlers, whatever. You're kind of working on that discipline piece.
Yeah.
Then you go into kindergarten through 5th grade, and you're kind of in that training mode. And then now we're in teenagers, so 13 to 19, really, about 18, something like that. And really, you kind of turn into a coach.
Yeah, it's coaching.
It's more just coaching. And I'll say this at the beginning. I have 2 that aren't teenagers, 2 that are teenagers right now, older teenagers, and then 3 actually, because I was 14, so 3. Lindsey has.
I have 3 teenagers. And 2 middle schoolers that are not.
So
preteens.
Everything we say, just know that we're still in this season.
Exactly.
We're learning. We're learning. We're not experts by any means. Yeah. We can only take just our experience as being a teenager and having teenagers, and then But by no means are we saying that we have got this all figured out.
No.
Because we don't.
No. And it's all in, because, Ashley's already walked this road 3 times before I did, and different kids, different personalities, different friend groups. And I feel like we can just tell you what we've lived and we've learned.
Yeah.
And what we haven't lived. And so it's like, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But what I don't want people to do is to say, that's not my kid. That's not no, my kid's not.
Right.
Just listen and, maybe think on some things.
Yeah.
Again, that doesn't mean we're right about your child.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's wisdom in listening to some other people who maybe have walked this road before you.
Yeah.
And we can't just shut that off if we believe our kid is a certain way. Just keep it in your head, Yeah. And some of this stuff, again, it might not be your kid. And that is great. That is totally fine with us. But it's just very to have an open heart about it, an open mind. So.
Yeah, and I think just to see, not even with this podcast, but talking to other people, being open, asking the Holy Spirit, what do I need to take away from this and apply in my family? So it doesn't necessarily have to be this podcast. It could be a book you're reading. It could be a sermon, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. But something that Lindsey and I talked about that we feel like is just huge in the teenage years is relationships. Yes, your relationship with your teenager is super important during this time, but also their relationships.
Yes.
Is
very influential.
Yes.
This is a huge, can make it or break it.
I agree.
So, in my opinion, from what we've seen, what we've experienced, it definitely can be a make it or break it situation. Yeah. So, I think that, also your relationship with your kids. I think that we all do that a little differently. I do think that, but I think that we have to understand that we're not our kid's friend.
No. And when I say relationship, I don't mean friend.
Yeah, you mean parent relationship, parent-child.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times parents want to be their kids' friends because they're so worried.
Especially when they become
teenagers. Yeah.
But they're just not
ready. I don't know what that dynamic is. I'm not sure if it's because they're living through their kids. Right. Is it because they want their kids to be cool? Yeah. They want to be cool. I do think there's some of that going on.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the people listening to this podcast.
Maybe not.
But to some people, they want to feel cool as cool parents. They want their kids to be popular. They kind of, maybe they want, I don't know. I'm not sure what that looks like. I think some of it's fear-based.
Yeah.
They're worried their kids are not going to have a relationship with them when they're older if they are their parent and not their friend.
Absolutely. Or they just don't want to say no.
Yeah.
And
it's too difficult to deal with it, and it's exhausting. So, or they feel that way. So there's a lot there, and I'm not really sure, because I've never had that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
Although I will say, my youngest says, you are my friend. You are my best friend. And I'm like, well, first of all, your dad is my best friend.
Yeah.
And she's me. No, I'm not trying to be. I was actually, we were kind of being funny with each other, but I was like, okay, your dad is my best friend. She was like, oh. I was like, well, you want it that way. Trust me. And then, and I do. I feel like my mom was my friend, but I always knew she was my mom.
Well,
there was a respect there.
And there's time for that later.
Yeah.
You're going to be closer. And you're going to have more of a friendship when you're an adult.
No, I didn't feel like she was my friend when I was a teenager. Yeah. I'm talking about when I was an adult.
Absolutely.
And the older I got, that's when I feel like that became a friendship. But there was still a healthy fear and respect because she was my mom.
Yeah, of course.
I would still never talk to my dad the way I would talk to a friend.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I say yes, sir, to my dad.
Yeah,
still,
me too.
to this day.
Yes.
I will type it, text it. Yes, sir. I'm not going to, there's still to me a healthy reverence, if that's the right word, for your parents and respect. And I just think that should always be there.
Yeah, I do too. I do think it's important let's start with our relationship with our kids as teenagers. One thing that I think is hugely important, and you might get tired of this, and this is not easy, but you have to be having conversations about everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you've already covered it.
Yeah.
You have to continue these conversations over and over and over again. One that's going to keep you close. You also might have to sacrifice a little bit. And, optimize the time that you have with them. So if that's there in your car with you, those are great times to have conversations. At night, even though you're so tired and ready to go to bed, sometimes teenagers want to talk at night. And I'm not talking about an extreme thing, but kind of being open to see times that are better to be having conversations with your kids.
Yeah.
You know, depending on their personalities. Some kids are quieter than other kids.
Yes.
You know, sometimes you need to build in conversations of just because sometimes they're quiet. Like our son Grayson, our senior, he's a little bit more quiet. And almost a year ago, my husband and I were talking, and I was like, you know, I really feel like you need to maybe be a great idea if you and Grayson start going to breakfast, you know, every week. And so they've been doing that weekly for a year now. And I think it's just been so good for their relationship and for some conversations that I think Grayson would have kept quiet. I have other kids that just tell you everything, sometimes too much. And I'm like, I don't want to know all that.
Yeah.
You know? So you kind of have to, it goes from kid to kid.
Yeah.
And sometimes they go through some moods as teenagers where they're not as talkative.
Oh my gosh.
Or you don't want to talk to them because they have an attitude.
Yes.
You know?
That for sure happens.
But I think having it on your radar is important.
It is. Yeah. No, I mean, it is always conversations. Like right now, because I feel like my kids are so close in age, I feel like we are just like, I am never not having a conversation with one child.
Yeah.
Right? Like I have 5 kids, so it might not be the same kid, or we might be in a season where there's a lot of conversations happening with one child, and then I no sooner do I flip from that kid to another kid, and it's it's tiring.
Yeah.
But I feel like conversations, not only is it teaching them, and when we say conversations, we're not meaning nagging, we're not meaning, you know, they're in trouble all the time, but it's just teaching moments. It's a lot of teaching moments. It's a lot of what's going on in your life. And I never look at my kids and say, what's going on in your life? No. But it's like, that would be weird.
Yes.
But it's just like, oh, what'd you do today? Oh, how was this? Like, what's going on? And like, I think what's cool, so like Micah used to be a lot quieter around, like just in general, he was quieter. And I used to think that Micah might end up being, you know, Parker's always been the one that talks. He calls me all the time. Like he has always wanted to talk to me, even over Derek, about like, you know, things. And I always thought, oh, Micah's going to be the quiet one. Micah talks to us all the time now.
Yeah.
He's 16. He calls me. He asks me questions.
And that's what I mean by they go through seasons sometimes.
They do. But also I think that some of that is because we do talk to our kids about stuff all the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conversation. I think that you can have kids that talk to you if you create that culture in your home. Yeah. If there is always, but if you're letting your kid kind of do whatever they want, I'm going to tell you, most of them are going to not want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Right? Like really, that starts, in my opinion, when they start hitting puberty. Yeah. If you allow that. And like, I remember telling Anne-Marie one day, like, hey, I know a lot of like middle school girls and their moms don't have good relationships. And I said, we're going to have a good relationship, girly.
Yeah.
Like I said, we love each other. We're not going to act annoyed. You're not going to act embarrassed for me.
Yeah.
We going to love each other. And I just like sat it right there. And I'm like, that is how our relationships can be. And it's cool because I feel like in some ways that has paved the way for her to know, I'm going to love my mom. I'm going to have a good relationship with my mom.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. Like, I'm going to want to be around my family. Yeah. And so, anyways.
Yeah, and it's continued. So it's conversational all the time. Like looking for those conversations, looking for those teaching moments, looking for, I think a big one too is like, I think sometimes we think like, oh, we addressed this already. We don't have to address it again. Like the sex conversation. I don't think we've talked about this on an episode, but we talked to our kids about sex at a young age in elementary school. We will not go into all of that right now, but something we've talked about is that we want the first time they hear about it to be from us, not from someone at school. One, there's misinformation, there's all these kind of things. So we don't tell everything, but we tell the basics pretty early. That is a continued conversation for a long time. You can't just say like, oh, I covered that in 3rd or 4th grade, the basics, and not ever come back to talking about some more things. One, because they're talking about it at school and they're hearing about it. And you just want to make sure that it's aligning with truth about that subject. But it's not just sex. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
But that is a constant conversation because you tell them around, you're trying to kind of, I don't know how to say this, like beat beat the other kids to the punch.
Yeah.
So you're trying to say as parents, I'm going to come in a little bit before I think their peers are going to start really diving into these conversations. Right. Boys, a little bit earlier than girls.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and then what you do is you say, this is the little bitty amount you get. This is the science behind sex. Yeah. This is what it actually is. And then you say, and I've had this conversation with my kids when they're about to go into middle school. Hey, you're going to hear some words that you don't know what it means. Right. I want you to come home and ask me. Absolutely. Now, whether we think you're at an age where you can handle that will be different as to what we explain. But just so you know, don't ask your friends what those things are. Yeah. Also, if you're around your friends and they're talking about things inappropriate, walk away, be nice about it, but be like, yeah, I'm not allowed to talk about that, or I'm not going to talk about that right now. Yeah. And so that's the thing. Yeah. Then you start talking about porn. Well, porn actually kind of starts before that. Yes. You start talking about porn with and especially boys, not to say girls don't have that too, but you are checking in. Yeah. Hey, be careful what you're looking at. We also aren't giving them every freedom in the world on their devices. Yes. That's one conversation.
Yeah, and if you're having those conversations with your kids, they're going to come home and say like, oh, this situation happened. Yeah. And there's another teaching moment about phones, about dating, about sex, about pornography, about driving, about drinking, drugs, friends. I mean, the list goes on and on. But if this teenagers is truly this coaching time, coaches have to be available to coach.
Yeah, and you have to know your kid.
That's right.
You can't you can't just never talk to your kid and then all of a sudden want to start chiming in on some things like random topics that all of a sudden you start kind of freaking out about in your head. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And the cool thing is always having these conversations with your kid cultivates an environment for them to all of a sudden when they're in high school come home and tell you what's going on with their friend group. Yeah. They're like,
or this like happened. Not go off to college and then you never hear from them.
That's true.
You know,
they experienced that. Yeah,
right. That's true. Like they go and they still have this culture that they've taken, and so they're comfortable to call and text or whatever. Yeah. And some kids again are going to be better than others, but it's cultivating this culture in your home of conversations because you're going to need to have a ton of them. You want to be the biggest influence in their life, and actually you are. So whether you're absent or you're intentional, you are the biggest influence. Yeah. So take advantage of the time when they're teenagers.
And how many times have we talked to people that have said, I wish my parents would have talked to me about that when I was... Now that I see this, I look back and I'm like, my parents never even told me that. Or my parents never talked to me about that. Or how many times we've had people tell us, like, your parents talked to you about that stuff. I didn't have parents who talked to me about those things. And I'm not trying to make people feel bad. If you're a parent who you have not talked to your kids about things, I'm not trying to make you feel bad at all. I believe there's God's grace and all of that, and I'm so thankful for that. And I'm not trying to make you second guess your parents. I'm just saying currently, how can we handle our teens the best that we possibly can? Yeah. We both believe with our 10 children. Yeah. And I think that our brother's done the same thing, is always cultivating an environment of open communication. Yeah. Now, sometimes does that mean that your boys might say something that shocks you?
Oh, there are so many times I'm like, I hope that my face is not showing the shock that is in my head. But I'm like, I have created this for them to say these things so openly. And I'd rather that.
Yeah. Than not say anything at all. Yeah. And we're not seeing our kids talk to us about everything. Oh, we are not dumb. We know there's things they don't tell us. Yes. We know that.
There's things they find out much later.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, wow. Yeah. Also, our family is very sarcastic. I know I've already said this before. Our whole family. And if you cultivate that environment in your family, just be ready. Once your kids get to high school, they start making fun of you. Yeah. And it just doesn't end. And my boys and I have had these conversations later at night, and that doesn't happen all the time. Like, I'm not trying to paint some picture that we're just this kumbaya little family. Right. And no, that does not happen. But when it does happen, I like to be around for it. My boys, literally to this day, still, a conversation we had a couple of months ago, still make fun of me about this one phrase. Yeah. And they do it all the time. And I don't think it's ever going to stop. Yeah. And I don't get my feelings hurt. Yes. I just ignore them now. I'm like, whatever.
And I mean, like, teenagers, if we're really saying 13 to 18, whatever, it's 5 years. It's a long time. I mean, so it's just, things aren't always perfect, and they're not always. Sometimes you're going to have seasons where there's more conversations happening than others, but more just being that intentionality of it, I think is important. So I think that helps with the parent-child relationship or parent-teenager relationship.
And it does take a lot of effort and energy, guys.
100%.
It does. It is not.
You're getting older and so are they. So you're getting tireder.
I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
It does. Yes. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort. And there's been times because Derek is more laid back. Derek is talkative. If you know Derek, he is definitely not an introvert.
Yeah.
But Derek is more laid back, and I can't tell you how many times my boys will talk to me about things, and I stick around the conversation, and Derek falls asleep on the couch or zones out, and I'm like, hey, later, I don't necessarily say anything then, but I'm like, you need to still be active in these conversations. Right. It's good for you to stick around, and it's just because he just doesn't. He's a guy. He doesn't care. But, it's just good. But it does take a lot of energy.
It does. So. And I think too, I just want to say this really quick before we move on to friendships. I definitely know that I'm married to someone that is very open to talk to our boys about things. But also be open. Even if you're uncomfortable, to have conversations. And you might be married to someone that doesn't feel comfortable talking about things like sex or pornography or some other words I won't say right now because I don't know who's in the car listening. But it's hard, but be open to it.
Yeah.
And also encourage your spouse.
Yeah.
To have those conversations with your kids.
And to be honest, this is something that I feel like our generation is doing more of because our parents' generation did not do that.
Yes, I agree.
They really didn't. Mom talked to us about those things. I think mom talked to Wade a little bit about those things, but and it's not against dad at all. Dad was amazing. It's just, I think that became something new.
Yeah.
And something that people have learned over the years. So we are kind of having to navigate this without having that guidance from anybody above us, not because it's bad parenting, because it just wasn't something anyone knew then.
Yes. And we talk about all kinds of stuff. I mean, I don't remember my parents ever really asking me necessarily how I felt about very much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we'll sit down and talk to our kids about how they feel. And I just think that's a generational shift that's happened.
Yeah.
Where we're just much more conversational and having those with our kids. Let's move into friendships.
Yeah.
So we really believe that friendships is a huge important thing during this time. It's that whole thing of show me the 5 people around you and it says a lot about who you are.
Yeah. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Right. So the influence of friends I think is huge during this time.
And I do not know who created that quote. It was not me.
No.
But it's very true.
Yeah. Yeah. Proverbs 13:20 says, he who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm.
Yeah.
And it's a biblical truth.
Yeah.
I think even for adults, but as teenagers, because their friends are their everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our kids have a great family. I had a great family, but man, did I love my friends when I was a teenager. That is who I wanted to be around all the time. That is who you want to hang out with. You can't take it personally.
Yeah.
But I think these are a good conversation to start having in middle school about friend groups.
Yeah, I actually think not only do kids need to have that conversation, I think parents need this conversation.
Yeah. Yes.
I have talked to so many parents who really struggle with feeling like their kids don't have enough friends.
Right.
Their kids need to have more cool friends. They're worried because their kids aren't getting enough social time. Yes. And I am like, okay. Mm-hmm. I just want to be like, that. Trust me, that's not what you want. That's really not what you want. Yes. You're pushing something that is not actually going to come back. It's going to return to you void.
Yes.
If not,
it
worse.
can. Yeah.
It can. And
if you're focusing on the wrong thing, why do you want your kids to have popular
so many friends? Why do you want them to have so many friends?
Why do you want them to get invited to everything? Guys, that's just not reality.
It is not reality.
That's not real life.
No.
And it stinks to not get invited to the party or whatever.
Yeah.
But what a great opportunity when they're younger to have a conversation. You also don't know what's happening at that party. It might be best that they weren't invited.
Yeah.
I just think we have to flip the script a little bit and be like, okay, really, what is the perspective here on this?
Yeah.
With
and
friends.
this starts elementary school.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, we didn't go to every birthday party our kids were invited to.
Right.
When they were in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
We did not. Yes. I knew multiple people who went to every single birthday party. That's cool. That's your thing. That's your thing. But we were like, we go to we had so many kids. So we were like, we go to the ones that are your closest friends or the people that we know the parents, right? So then you're starting there, at least for us. And I don't think there's a right or wrong with that. Yeah. I don't care which way you go with it. But I think because we went that route, it's already teaching our kids like, hey, not everyone has to be your friend.
Yeah.
Also, just because you didn't get invited to a birthday party doesn't mean you're not their friend.
Yes.
Right? I think we need to watch where we're setting our priorities. Like, what is our level of importance here? Okay? Yeah. And then it moves into middle school, and I am a huge proponent, and I think I've already said this before, of keeping your middle schoolers close. Yeah. I have seen it really unfold in a really negative way. People who just let their middle schoolers already hang out as if they're in high school.
I'll admit, we made that mistake with one of our kids that started hanging out with friend groups earlier, and I'm not blaming the friend group. To be honest, I blame the kid and me.
And you just didn't know.
I was, and this is one of my things about teenagers, giving them things too soon. I think we think that they can handle things, and they can't. They're just not ready. They're just not mature. We talked about this in another episode before too, about dating, I think. Same thing sometimes with a friend group. Sometimes they're not ready for that kind of freedom. And if I could go back, I would probably have kept this kid closer like I did the other ones.
Yeah.
And one, it was like, there were two of them, that same thing. One wasn't as crazy, but the other one was. It was just too much too early.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And pretending like you're in high school or you're 16 when you're only in 6th grade. Yeah. You know? And it just...
And it's boy-girl groups, and it's like, it turns into drama most of the time. Yes. And Ashley and I don't do drama.
Yeah,
I just go ahead and tell you, we don't do drama. Yeah. We don't participate in drama. Anytime our kids have been involved in drama, you will never hear me texting a parent. No. I will not have a conversation with a parent about it. One time, oh gosh, that was so many stories. But one time, not about drama, not about drama necessarily, but this is funny. Yeah. One time, we get a phone call from someone, Derek does, that we found out that Micah, you won't care because he actually thinks it's funny, was getting paid to do a friend's project at school. Micah looked at it as a business. He was like, "It's awesome." Wouldn't even register with him that it was cheating.
Wow.
It really did not, okay? And here's the deal. The dad called Derek. We didn't really know these people. He wanted to sit them down and talk to these boys about it. And Derek was like, I'm not doing that. Yeah. Like, it's just drama. Yeah. Like, and that is not even the real drama. Right. Like, that's like a little bit different. Yes. But like, and again, we're not saying we didn't handle that with Micah. Micah was not in trouble because he truly didn't understand that was cheating. Yeah. Now, if he would have, that would have been different. But it just, you got to be so careful about the drama. And a lot of times, in middle school, there's going to be drama. I don't care how good of a friend group you're in.
There are.
Yeah, I do not care.
Always.
And the drama always includes the parents.
Yes.
It never stops with just the kids. Normally, they pull in the parents. Guys, don't get wrapped up in it. Don't even have a conversation. You don't have to be mean. But I'm going to go and tell you, the parents that are like that, they sniff out parents that don't want a part of it. And usually you're not in that. Your kid's not in that friend group. That's right. Because they just know. Like, they don't want a part in this. Yeah. And so... Anyways, but friend groups, middle school, really keep your middle schoolers close. I'm not saying they can't ever go hang out with their friends. Yeah. I'm just a huge, huge fan of, hey, you have them in this like really important time of going through puberty and all that. And I know we're talking about high school, but it prepares them for high school. Yeah. Also,
they're turning 13 and 14 in middle school.
So, yeah. And then we also I have a lot of conversations with my kids, usually when they're about to be in 8th grade, about what a friendship's going to look like in high school.
Yeah.
Because that's when things shift.
They do.
Most middle schoolers are good kids. Most. Not all.
Yeah.
But most of them are not.
I would say most of them.
And even
that, when we were letting a couple of our kids have friend groups, like
they weren't doing bad stuff.
We weren't doing bad stuff. It was more kind of drama. It brought more drama.
Yes.
At too young of an age.
And it was just, and there's some seeds that are getting sown.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, there's some seeds that are getting
patterns.
Some patterns, right? So they start hanging out in middle school, some patterns, some seeds. There's a lot of blind eyes to things. not that's happening then, but what's probably going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of conversations with my kids, usually about 8th grade, like, hey, and I did. This started with Parker. Hey, we need to be praying the Lord provide you some solid, good, Christ-loving friends in high school. Ideally from youth group.
Yes.
Let's pray that God provides you a youth group, because in our situation, we've kind of, our kids are in a great youth group, but it's been a little bit of a transition through all that. So let's pray that God provides you some really solid friends. And that has really, the Lord has answered. Yeah. And it is just crazy.
Yes.
But
and also just like that right there. If you are concerned about your kids' friends, or friend groups, or lack thereof, I just encourage you to go to the Lord with it.
Yeah.
And pray about it and trust Him about it, because we've seen God move in that way in our kids in different situations when it's come to a friend group.
And talk to your kid about it. I actually think there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, and depending on your kid, depends on how you approach it. I understand that, but hey, I'm going to be honest. I don't have a good feeling about this friend. I've said this multiple times.
Yes.
And you have to, again, let's be careful with how much you're saying that, because if you say it too much, kids are going to start ignoring you.
Right.
So you got to kind of really feel that in your spirit. And then you can even be like, I want you to be praying about this.
Yes.
I mean, I won't go deep into it, but Parker, Parker was my very black and white child. No tolerance for anything. And I am so grateful for that. Mm-hmm. But he didn't really have a lot of friends. And he was sophomore year of high school. Ashley knows this. We do fasting and praying. I don't know if I already told this story or not, but we do fasting and praying. And the bottom line is Parker, during that time, we do not make our kids fast. We encourage fasting of some sort. If you don't know what fasting is, we do encourage fasting of some sort. That doesn't mean it's food. It just means something that you really love and almost feel like you can't live without. And you fast it for a little bit of time. And Parker decided he felt like he was supposed to fast. We went over it with him. Do you understand fasting? Okay. Bottom line is this. I said, Parker, during this fast, I am going to be, and I want you to be praying that God provides you with friends. And no word of a lie, 4 months later, not even, was his birthday. So April's his birthday, 16th birthday. We took a massive group of people to Topgolf.
Yeah.
And it was the quickest turnaround.
Yeah.
And I believe it's because my 15-year-old came to the Lord and was like, I want friends. I want godly friends.
Yeah.
That's all. If your kid isn't praying for that, that's okay. You pray for it.
Yeah. That's right.
Your prayer as a
tell
mom,
them that you're praying for them.
and you tell them that you're praying for it. And then when they get it, you come back and you say, look what God did.
Yeah.
And so, but friends, absolutely make it or break it.
It does.
And where do we see a shift in friendships? Some friends making not great choices in high school.
Pretty much when they start driving.
Yeah.
That would be the biggest shift that I've seen just in my years of having teenagers, is they start driving. They have a little bit more independence. They just think they have more freedom, which they do to a certain extent. And you kind of really see this fork in the road. It might be earlier for some people, but pretty much like sophomore year, 10th grade is when I kind of see the fork in the road, and kids either go one way or another.
Yeah.
And so, including my own kids. And so I just don't want to pretend like.
Not all of them.
They all, So, and they would say that too. If they were sitting on this podcast right now, they would tell you their stories. So, but I think friendship, again, being intentional in relationships with your kids is also being intentional on who they're hanging out with, who their friends are. Yeah. And this leads me to another thing that I think is so important, especially for teenagers. That we're big church people, big local church, being involved, being in community. But I think exposure to youth groups
at an early age.
But if somewhere they want to go is preaching Jesus or values like FCA, Young Life, another youth group. That might not be the youth group at your church. Now, I do encourage families to go to church together and have a church home. But even if it's another youth group, that is something we have done, so open to it.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, if you want to go, I will get you there.
Yeah.
And I think that's
that is
hugely
true.
important.
What you just said, I'll get you there, is true, because it isn't always easy.
Yeah.
But you have to make it a priority.
Yeah.
And I've learned that from you. And I knew that already, but seeing Ashley model that, because of her, I think Parker was involved in youth group at a way early age, because Grayson's her fourth, so she was taking Grayson anyways, and would take Parker for me, and that was a massive blessing for us, because I still had little kids. But, I mean, even last year, Micah, it was his first year of playing high school lacrosse. Lacrosse, they have practice the whole year, not summer, but the whole year at the high school. But one is in season and one is not. And so I was like, out of season, off season, it's optional to go to practices. So we let him miss on Wednesday night for youth group. In season, last year, his practices were before they ended, where he could still make it youth group, but a little late. Guys, we took him. Yeah. It was not easy. Yeah. It was a pain in the butt. It was a pain in the butt to literally leave dinner, go pick him up at the high school, take him to youth group, but we did it. Yeah. And he wanted to do it, and we wanted him there. He did have a friend sometimes that would take him because he also was on the lacrosse team. But that's making it a priority. Yeah. Because, he was late, but it didn't matter. He also, let me say this, even if your kid doesn't want to go, make them go.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Doesn't matter. Do you have to make them go to everything we listed? No. Yeah. They need to go somewhere consistent. I'll never forget our brother and them telling his oldest son.
Yeah. He just told this story at the beach when we were there a couple weeks ago. He's like, I remember Jax was like in 6th grade, and I hope that they don't care that I'm telling this, but I would drop him at youth group and he would be crying like, I don't want to go in. Because
he didn't know anyone.
I didn't know anyone. He was a little bit more introverted. I don't want to go in. Please don't make me go. Please don't make me go. And Wade was like, this is so hard. It's so hard when your kids do that.
It's so hard.
But they made him. They made him get involved in youth group and stuff. Okay, Jax is a senior. Can I tell you that this kid is playing the keys at youth group all across town.
And church.
And church.
Church on Sunday mornings.
All the youth groups, he's involved.
He speaks. He's so good at speaking in front of people. He has so many friends. Yes. He is still introverted. Yeah. But they taught him, and they would tell him, Jax, if you are at youth group and you need a moment to walk away. Yeah. Because introverted people do.
Yes. Yeah.
They would say that's fine. Yeah. But we're not picking you up.
Yes.
We're not picking you up, and it's not an option. Yeah.
And it's just amazing to see. Like, I think if they wouldn't have kind of just encouraged Jax to do that, then maybe these opportunities that God has had for him that just have opened up. I'm not saying they wouldn't happen, but I do think that was a huge part of Wade and Kimberly listening to the Lord at that time, even when it was hard, and saying, you really need to go.
But I think that molded who Jax is today. Yeah. I think had they not pushed him to do some things that were hard, I think Jax would be a lot more introverted, and and any introvert would be more in their home a lot, not as social. They were so good at knowing when to allow Jax to walk away from some things, but also when to push. Yeah. And that's what I don't see. I think I don't see in a lot of parents. I think a lot of times when their kids are a certain way, they're one way or the other way. Yeah. They're either pushing them, and these kids don't want to play their sport anymore. They don't want to do anything anymore. Or they're not making them do anything, and they're like, they just have so much anxiety. And you're just, anyways, make them go to a God-centered environment on the weekly.
Yeah, very regularly. Yes.
Very regularly.
Because here's the thing, the people in youth group and FCA, Young Life, whatever that is, they are saying the same things you're saying. They're just so much cooler than you.
Yeah, sure.
So your kids are listening. Now, they listen to you. Don't get me wrong. Your kids listen to you, even if they don't act like they do. I promise. They're listening to their parents. I don't know if they're obeying, but they're listening. Yeah. But when they go to something like that, they are hearing the same thing, but they're hearing it from someone that's young and cool and hip, and they are taking that in. I think this is a great time, too, as teenagers, to encourage your teenagers to find leaders that are Christ followers to meet with. Yeah. This is something we encourage all of our boys to do from a very young age. Hey, there's a youth pastor. His name is Kyle, and you should reach out to him. See if y'all can go to lunch. Yeah. See if you can ask him questions. That has been so instrumental in my kids' life, especially my boys, to have these other leaders. Some of them have been kids that go to University of Texas, and they're Young Life leaders, and they've built relationships with our boys, and it has shaped who they are. Yeah. And I'm so thankful to the Lord for that.
I think it's cool too that your boys have reached out also. That they're not waiting on the youth leader to reach out to them. We haven't necessarily encouraged that. We have said things before about it, but it's just, I feel like so selfish doing this. But we've always my boys have always kind of gotten the end of the coat off what Ashley and Jeremy's boys have done. Yeah. And then made relationships because of that I have seen multiple youth leaders reach out to my boys and meet with them and mentor them, and it has been just, but to even teach your kid, like, hey, sometimes you have to take the first step.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes we as parents are waiting on the youth leaders to do it.
Yeah, that's not
the
fair.
Youth leaders need to do that. Yeah. Why have they not brought?
And it doesn't just have to be a youth pastor.
No, it could be a pastor.
There are a lot of different. And I think, again, you can go back and you ask the Lord, like, hey, can you bring another adult into my child's life that could be a positive influence on them?
But I just think we as parents have to say, we know what's good for our kids, and I can't put that all on a youth leader. That's not fair. Yeah. This one youth leader has how many people in their youth group? Yeah. And I'm over here expecting them to, like, bring my kid in and make my kid be involved. Right. Like, I've heard so many people say that too, like, and I'm like, no, I don't think that's fair. Yeah. I don't think that's fair.
And it's kind of a domino effect. Like, if you're exposing them to all these things, like youth group and parachurch ministries or whatever that is, then they're going to see leaders there that they want to talk to, that they want to get involved with. To me, it kind of all goes together, you know. But I just think that's a huge thing during teenage years. One thing that I thought about too was, and this again takes intentionality, but there's not all things that I'm like, I'm glad I did this, but this I'm glad I still do it, is be about what they're about. Yeah. I think this is sometimes hard when you don't have interests that your kids have. Naturally, but I just mean, like, get involved in what they are involved in. I'm not talking about if they play sports that you show up to every game. Of course, most people do that. I'm talking about, like, for instance, my kids will listen to certain preachers, sermons, whatever. I know this is probably not normal, which is fine. My husband was a pastor. I get it. My kids they kind of love church. But I start listening to the people they're listening to. Okay, I have had I might not listen to them ever, but if my kids are listening to them, I start to listen. Not so I'm like checking up on what they're listening to. I want to have a conversation with them about what they're listening to. I remember when Tyler was little, he's my creative. And he is whatever he's into, he's into. So it was like Indiana Jones or Star Wars. I don't care one bit about either one of those things. But I was like, I'm going to find out as much information about these things so I can talk to Tyler about them. Football. I love football. But I know a lot more about football than I've ever wanted to know because I've had kids that have been involved in football. And that's what I mean. Like, kind of finding that common interest, even if it's not a natural thing for you. Maybe because I have 4 boys, this kind of seems like a bigger thing. It's not as hard with a girl because I'm a girl to talk about girly things. But with boys, it's definitely been something I've tried to be really intentional about.
I think that's great. I think that's great advice. I think that it's easy for us to be busy, and especially if it's something we're not interested in, to like kind of be like, okay, anyways, you know. And I think we have to be like, again, that doesn't mean you have to be all in, like, you know, going crazy with it, but you definitely need to be willing to like talk about it and see what they say about things and think about things, and
it's just getting to know them.
And what they're passionate about. You know, I mean, it's funny because like girls are so different than boys, and I actually love sports, and I have loved my kids being involved in sports, but we're shifting in that. Because like Micah plays lacrosse, and that has been great. But really, I think my only daughter that will do anything in high school might be Ava May. I think she might run. But like running, I'm not a runner. But I will be at every meet. You know, like I will talk to her about her pace or whatever it is she wants to talk about because that's what she's into, you know, or choir. I mean, I do love choir because I think it's fun, but like I know there's a lot of people who don't hear anything about choir, but you talk to your kid about choir. I think that's great. I haven't really thought about that, but that's so true.
And then just as we kind of wrap this up, I think, you know, as they get older, maturity takes time, and your kids are maturing and kind of being intentional about that pace of what their maturity is. But when they start to get about 17, you have to start loosening the reins a little bit.
So true.
It's not going to be your natural instinct, I don't think, especially if you're a parent that's really kind of like on top of your kids. But because they are getting ready to go to college. And if you can think in 1 year or 6 months or 18 months, my kid is going to go to college on their own, and they're going to have to figure out some of these things on their own. They're going to have to advocate for themselves. They're going to learn how to do all kinds of different things. You can start that at home, but you do have to start loosening the reins. You know, and just trust that you have built a foundation for them. And you know what? Some things you're going to loosen the reins and they might fail at. And you're going to have to rein them back in, but they're still home. And then let them go again because they're going to be gone one day. It doesn't mean that you have no influence over their life. You most certainly do. But you are going to have to do that, right? I mean, as they get older.
I mean, I'm just now in that phase of life, and they are things that we have done. Like, for instance, we have all of our kids on our iTunes family account. Well, actually, we haven't been able to have all of them because we have too many kids for it.
Same thing.
But we just took Parker off.
Yeah.
And not too long ago and put one of our girls on and our youngest, and, you know, like Parker, we don't have that. We're not doing, now, if we really needed it, we are paying for his phone. We are paying for his car. You know, even in college, if we're paying for it, we have the authority to rein it in if we need to. But it's true. It's like you are about to go, and we have to trust that this coaching season that we have done the best we can do. And Derek says that sometimes, like, he's like, once they hit a certain age, like, which I think is like 18, we've done all we can do. If our kids do something that it's not something we're okay with, we didn't teach them that. What can we do? We can't take it on us.
They're their own people.
They are their own people. That's right. You can't take it on your parenting or whatever. Also, we're not perfect people. And so, like, there's got to be grace for that. And I just feel like the teenage years, you're almost like from getting to that.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're doing. The whole point in this.
That's your goal.
Your goal is to release them.
Launch
and pray in the name of Jesus that they are going to reach other people for the kingdom of God. That is the goal. And how can we do that? But also, how can we prepare them to go out into life? And I do believe the Lord wants us to have a good life on earth. I don't believe that it always has to be trials and tribulations and hardships. I know that we encounter those, but I think that if we're teaching our kids the right thing, that, you know, and we're praying for them. Praying. Big deal. I think that they will, if we've taught them. So even I was thinking that, like, these last, you know, talking about this coaching phase, like, when you're having all these conversations, it's not just logical, like, don't do this, do this. You need to be pouring in this word into them. Now, don't use the scripture to manipulate a situation or whatever, but because some people get burned on that, but be like, hey, this is really what the Lord says about this, right? Like, we want wisdom. We want to hear from God. We want patience. And, you know, before we went on our trip, I think I said this, like, I told our kids, I want us to be praying for the fruit of the Spirit. Like, fruits of the Spirit. Like, because that's how we become better people, you know, and learn and grow. And, you know, we've never arrived and all that. And I just think this coaching time and all those conversations, I mean, obviously not every conversation you're going to bring up the Lord, but a lot of those conversations should be guided by the Lord. I feel like mom and dad were so good at that. And I never felt like they were shoving the word of God down. It was just the truth.
And I think too, like, your teenage year, like your kids' teenage years, you can enjoy.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
I think it's a lie to say that teenage years, I'm never, whatever. Like, I don't think that has to be the truth.
I don't either.
You know,
I think it's so fun.
It's so fun.
I think it is
They're
so
funny. They have, you know, they're more witty. They have these conversations you can talk about a lot more. And
they kind of start talking about adult things, like what do they want to do when they're older? Like, they want to get a job, and they start doing things like Parker wanted to do some things to his car, and he has his own money. We didn't do a thing with it. He called, he found the place, he found the mechanic, he took it, he made the appointment, he dropped it off, he paid for it. Like, that kind of stuff is so adulting.
Like, and also, like, let them fill out their own paperwork.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Please.
It doesn't always work out.
But just let them fill out their own paperwork. Things like that. Those are things, practical things that you can do when they're teenagers.
Do not be filling out, like, I refuse to fill out, like, Parker's college application. And Parker, love him to pieces, technology-wise, is probably not the best ever. He just is so chill. Like, he didn't say he hates technology. He just doesn't care. And I'm like, read the application from top to bottom. Parker Mills. Like, you know, you have to teach him, but if you don't let them do it, what are they going to learn? I need him to be a husband and a father one day. I'm like, gosh,
they're gonna have to do it.
So anyway,
so it's good that they're doing it under your roof. But okay, so let's finish with our question of the week.
Well, before we do that, I want to read this.
Yes.
Okay, so before we do that, I'm going to end with this. One thing that our mom did, and we have told multiple people this, and we have had multiple people ask us to, like, post it, and they write it down. But this is something our mom and dad did over us from when we were little. I don't know. I just remember it forever. My mom would pray it over us before we went to school all the time. We all, me, Wade, and Ashley, all adopted it, maybe added some things here and there to it. But it's something that we pray over our kids almost every day.
They know by heart.
Yeah, they know by heart. Once the kids start driving, it's like, you don't, they might not hear it as much, but I did this morning. But I'm going to leave you guys with this, and this is something that I feel like covers all the things. Yeah. All the things that you can pray over your kids. All right, like I have a card and it says Mills fam, but it could be self family, whatever. So I always say Parker, Micah, Emery, Ava, May, and I'm Kate, and whatever. I say, you will love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. You are the head and not the tail. You are the top and not the bottom. You are above and not beneath. You are the lender and not the borrower. You are blessed and highly favored. You have every spiritual blessing. You are blessed going in. You are blessed going out. You are growing in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and with man. And guys, this is all scripture. Yes. A lot of it's from Deuteronomy.
Just praying God's word.
And you are literally praying God's word into your children. Yes. It covers protection. It covers blessings. It covers favor. Yeah. It covers all the things, the future, and it covers their heart, their mind. And just want to encourage you guys to be praying over your kids. It doesn't have to be this, but pray the word over them. Mm-hmm. Pray like crazy, and not always in desperation though.
Right.
Pray in confidence.
In faith. In declaration.
Faith, that God has got your kids.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Okay. Question of the week.
Yeah.
It's my turn, right?
Yes.
I think. Okay. So what do you find like incredibly chic? Like if a lady walks in the room or whatever, like what do you think is like incredibly chic? Like you're like, oh, that lady is, or that woman is super chic. Is there anything like, this is a big thing on TikTok. People are like, this is what I find chic, And I always think it's so interesting.
Like one item or just in general?
Just whatever. Like if you saw someone and you're like, okay, they look really chic.
Yeah. So I'm not like into TikTok really, which has been a very big struggle for me on like knowing how to post TikTok. On TikTok, if you're a TikTok fan, follow us on TikTok. Yeah. Share our stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so one thing that I really found chic was when we went to Spain. We went to Madrid, and I mean everyone, locals. I was like, okay.
They just all look like so chic.
I really love the neutral colors, although I don't wear them all the time. I love the neutral colors. I love the, me personally, the oversized tan kind of suit look.
Yes.
With, pointy, or maybe not pointy, but stylish black heels. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know, cool sunglasses. I tucked in shirt. And I don't know. Most of that is, skinny women.
I don't think so.
Most of those women are super tall and skinny. But I saw a lot of neutrals in Madrid, like khakis, tans, whites, blacks, flowy stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just it looks so classy. Yeah. I also don't hardly ever do this, but you do this. I like really cute fancy heels jeans. Yeah. I feel like that's a really cool look. I'm unfortunately for comfort in heels about kill my feet, but that's Madrid. I was
I would think European.
I literally was I need to change my whole wardrobe. Yeah. I told Jared that. I was that's it. I need to go all neutrals. Yeah. Like JJ. Yeah. Because we're going to have a
I love that too. I think neutrals are super chic. I think sunglasses is always something that makes somebody look chic to me. For some reason, when their shoes and their bag and their sunglasses all match, but in a chic way, not in a tacky way. I just think it's they really thought about this and but it looks effortless.
It does. That's what makes someone chic. Yes. Is when they walk effortless, but it's they just I literally picture them in the morning just throwing on something, and they just anything they throw on looks amazing. Yes. And they're just oh, I'm just going to, I'm just walking to the market, because they're not I'm getting in the car going to H-E-B. Yeah. I don't see chic people really that much at H-E-B. To me, it's I'm walking to the market. Yeah. And they just throw on their really adorable outfit, and I'm really? Yeah. And
I have a friend that's on my tennis team, and she just always looks so regal. I don't know if that's the word. She's very put together, but it doesn't look like she's trying too hard. And she is tall and thin too.
Well, so there's the thing.
But she just always looks just so chic and elegant.
Do you think they just spend a lot of money on their clothes, and that's why they look that way?
Maybe, or maybe they know how to fit their clothes really well. I think tailored clothes probably make people look more chic than they are, or more chic in general.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought that was a good question.
It's a great question.
I'm not saying it's like something that you're like, oh, I want to look like that every single day. But I just love when I see somebody that I'm like, oh, they look so chic.
I would love to look so chic every day. Yeah. But one thing is like comfort matters to me. And sometimes chic clothes are not always comfortable.
Or appropriate for what you're going to do, maybe.
Yeah. And so it's like, but then I struggle with the chic and the like really cool.
No, and those are two different things.
Yeah. You've got the chic look, classy. Gosh, you just always look so classy and cool. I mean, not cool, like just...
Yeah. And then you look like really cool and trendy.
Yeah.
And,
like you got the color, like I have the colored, sambas and the
trucker hat.
The trucker hat and the like graphic tees. Yes. Like you wore the graphic tee, the blazer. Yeah. Like that's
I feel like I go in between two.
I'm like, I would love to look chic. I don't know if that fits my body style, but I'm sure if I spent a lot of money, I could. So anyways, but all right. We hope you enjoyed this. This is not going to be the last time we talk about parenting. I feel like we're going to be talking about parenting. Oh my gosh.
It is the life that we have lived in our living.
It is. And it's like it's something that I feel like is important to encourage other parents because we're in this together.
Yeah.
And we're never going to do it perfectly.
Yes.
So like to me, let's do it together.
Yeah. I love it.
Alrighty.
Okay,
bye. Bye guys.